Excellent. Hello, world. It's Nyy'xai Coach here, and I'm answering a question from Nyy'xai Maya. Alrighty. First, let me start off by saying that this is a challenging question because it's asking about Nyy'xai aimlessness or being a ship without an anchor or things of that theme. I'll get more to specifics when I read through here. But that is a high-level question. That is a very charged question. And then also, I as a Nyy'xai, I have an interesting perspective here. I can offer a lot of advice on one hand in that this gets into things like worldly ranking, which I have a momentum power for, G. And then it also gets into purpose of life, meaning of things, which again, I have a momentum power for that. But I'm giving these particular, advice nuggets from the point of view of I'm talking to a gatherer. So a gatherer is not a hunter. Different momentum modulation powers. So that puts me in a position where I can do a bit of insightfulness in one hand, but there will need to then be a sort of trying to translate into how that would work for you, and I'm going to have to leave the larger portion of that to you. I will try to give like a bit of a handoff as best I can, but then, like I said, I don't have those powers consciously, so I can do a good handoff, but that is the extent of my ability with my conscious powers. All right, so. Some general things here I thought I wanted to mention, but I'll get to that at the end. I'm just going to go through and kind of comment on things she said here, things she's asked, and I might actually already get to some of these, and I'll just check what I didn't do at the end. Okay, so here's the query. Hi everyone, hope you're having a good spring/summer. I want to talk a bit about Nyy'xai aimlessness in life. Actually, aimlessness might not be the right word. No, yeah, I would say it is gathering. Which is roaming, but roaming isn't aimless if there is a reason for its existence, even if while you're doing it, maybe you're not, and both the stimulus register powers share this, they don't think a lot about the purpose of what they're doing while they're doing it, the pleasure of doing it, the reward of doing it, the interesting things you're riffing on or patterns you're connecting or so forth, or in case of V, physical things you're gathering, experiences you're having, that is validating the activity. That validation comes without needing to accord its purpose. For the worldview map powers, according something its purpose while experiencing it or thinking upon it, that's crucial to it actually being validated as a good thing to do. And then the discernment's, it's a push-pull thing. Some kind of push-pull validates it. But the worldview map powers, why you're doing something and the point of a thing, that's part of its momentum. All right, so back to this, aimlessness. No, it's not actually aimless, not if it's actually doing your peak pathway. If you feel your peak pathway is getting momentum, if you feel you're getting energy from these things that you're doing in a healthy way. Yeah, if you're gaining healthy energy for your peak pathway, your personal heroic spirit, then it's not aimless. It just may not have a stated, discovered, or laid out purpose yet. And even if it does get that, it doesn't need to be pondered on all the time. The gatherers ponder on that naturally, momentum modulation-wise, the least. It is major modulation to ponder on what is the point of this with firmness. And implied, and this really gets into, we see the difference, an absolutism, there will be like some sort of at least semi-final answer. That's how the worldview maps powers think, and so therefore that's not something a gatherer should necessarily be doing all the time. But you're right, there will be periods in your life you'll be thinking about a lot more, and then of course if you're mature and well-developed gatherer mojo, then you'll want to be able to do that whenever necessary, and when you do it, feel like I have to choose the word carefully, I am good with it. I'm good with what I get from my worldview map, and also a little bit the dynamics mover. Okay. In many cases, it's not so much that we lack goals altogether, rather we have too many goals and can't commit to any one thing. Yes, this is for everyone, but particularly, having knee first, it's going to be a tying them together. That is the commitment to the collage of your life, the commitment to the wonderful patchwork quilt of things that interest you. It's not actually necessarily one or the other, although there is a strong element to that at certain times, and I'll speak about that in a bit. All right. This has been on my mind a lot lately because it's directly applicable to my own life. In a year, I'll be graduating from university somewhat late in life. I'll be 27, and I feel pressured by myself more than anyone else to figure out what I want to do. That's natural because graduation is going to give a strong connection to your dynamics mover power, a ranking power, because your rank has changed. That's a clear, very distinct difference. I was a student and now I have my degree. I am post that. That's a big thing. So that's naturally going to then also tickle your polar, worldly map power of what does this mean and where are we going, why. Okay, so a part of me wants to continue traveling. I've been to 23 countries so far. In particular, I'm thinking of going to Japan for at least 2-3 years to teach English and do other things. From there, I would be able to travel to other Asian countries on vacation, and after a few years, I could decide if I wanted to stay in Japan long term or not. All right. Another part of me wants to settle down and have a family sooner rather than later. This would entirely prevent me from being able to travel occasionally, but it would obviously make it harder since I'll probably have children to look after and less disposable income. Yes, that will make a radical difference in your life. Because a child, the amount of energy and time that it takes often would equal usually 2 at least, if not 3, 4, 5, 6 hobbies. So anything you think of as like an intensive, like I'm geeking out in this hobby, ooh, I binge watched a ton of detective shows, I did that for like such and such weeks, whatever. Those kinds of amounts, a child is going to encompass several of those minimum ongoing. So, yeah, your character will make a distinct shift based on whether or not you have a child family now, while you're rising in a career, after you've risen in a career, not at all. So any of those 4 things, yes, will dramatically shift where things go. All right. Okay, so this is one thing that I can help out as an Nyy'xai because you actually have the better ability to see possibilities that may even riff off of this, and particularly for right here, to weigh certain things. But I can help out in pointing out some things that need weighing. Weighing to the point that your Z can give some sort of definitive answer on something. Okay. A part of me wants to continue traveling. Another part of me wants to settle down. What parts? I would take some real serious, and this is also why I think it's good to vlog. I asked my spirits if I should do this via a forum post, because there is advantages to that, to having it held in written form. But they said no. In this case, it helps since it'll be helpful me advising you as a worldview map power mojo and a G mojo. And when my spirit said that, then yes, I can communicate a lot more here. My words will have various energies to them, my cadence and pace and so forth. The wisdom that I exude, whatever level you feel that's at, the goodwill I'm exuding, whatever level you feel that's at, that will be coming across besides just the words themselves. And my spirit said I should do that. So on that, friend to friend here, I think you should spend some soul-searching time on what part it is, because that quantity is integral to this math you're doing. So there's going to need to be some more drilling down on that, dialing in on that, and sort of spending time massaging and finding out where these parts are motivated from. You can use whatever wording for that you want. You don't even have to use words, but somewhere in your psyche, you need to actually figure out where is that coming from. There's so much to this, and I don't want to lead you, but just to give you maybe like a taste of just one facet of how that question can be thought upon is a part of me wants to continue traveling. That sounds like gaining. Another part wants to settle down and have family sooner rather than later. Okay, that seems like there is a timeline cutoff or you will get excluded for something. So I don't know what that means, but the word choice you used and just the whole way it's kind of broken down here, it doesn't seem that the parts are, obviously they're different parts as far as opinions, but it doesn't sound like they're actually in the same part of the psyche. So it's not like it's one part of the psyche having a conversation, there's two sides to it. It sounds like two different parts of your psyche, spirit, essence, whatever you want to call it, but two different areas are vying for your attention. It's your job as a chosen one to figure out what these voices are and the weight and merit of what they're putting forward. Even if they both have weight and merit, and obviously they both do, you need to find out where this is coming from in order to get the highest spiritual clarity, insight, sureness, sense of I am doing good. In the sense of truth, a sense of myself, good. A sense of just deep contentment. You'll need to actually have that math. In particular, you'll need to know what those variables are. So this is the math we're doing, and I need to know that this is spirit math. So what spirits are driving these? Okay. Although I'm leaning more toward the Japan option right now, the truth is that both these paths terrify me. If I keep traveling indefinitely, I might have a great time, but I might not find anyone I want to marry and might just end up wasting my 30s and having fun for myself and only realizing when I'm 40 that I wasted my reproductive years. Okay, that opens up a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see here. I can just only touch on things briefly because there's so much there, but things that come to my mind are you don't have a guarantee in any of these routes of a mate. That's going to be a random chance kind of thing that you can affect through, the magnetism of your peak pathway of your person. So you doing that will affect the waves of what the world brings, but what exactly washes in from the shores of wherever you're going in life, that will have a randomness to it. So that can't be predicted either way. So you want to find and to marry someone. I hope I'm not asking you personal questions. You never have to answer what these are, but as an IG, these are the questions I would ask for your Jai to look into, and your Ni, which is, what is it you want the marriage to be? And then a critical element of that is there's a whole lot to that too, to come right up is how are you seeing the partnership working? Because that's going to require a certain range of riffs of a person who would be willing to play that role. Next up, how open are you to that role? Like, what is the range of a partner that you would consider to be workable for this conceptualization of marriage you have, so that it would be successful, whatever that means to you. You consider, I did that is working. So another part of that is, what do you want to be? For example, right here, if you're focusing on, and I don't know what the answer to this is, but if you're, okay, so also here, you haven't really set another alternate plan. I might have a great time, but I might marry the, okay. Okay, so I'm not sure, what would your plan be? I'll hold off on that, but point is, there's not any sort of a definite plan here of how you go about doing that, but let's say there was a plan. I'll do that and then I'll address the fact there's no plan. But right now, let's say there was a plan. If you had a plan that would increase the chances in the randomness that you would find a mate sooner rather than later, that person would be of a rift that would fit into a partnership with you that would actually equate to a conceptualization of marriage you thought was a success. Okay, you and that. The you that finds this person is the person that person is marrying. It's very important. So they're going to be meeting you because you want to get married, and you're doing a life course trajectory to take you to that hopeful outcome. That arc is the arc that is going to cross into their life pathway. So that is the you they will know. That is the you have become. A person who wants to be married before maybe traveling some more later in life. So that's going to be a cool story. See, both these can be cool stories, but it'll be a different story you're telling, which means this person's marrying someone else. So if you meet someone when on the Japan trip, they're going to be meeting a person who wants to have this kind of freedom and go to countries and so forth, and that's how they met you. That's the person you are being. And thus, if they were to marry you, they're marrying you because they got to know and liked and loved that person that you are being. So in that thing of like, what riffs would you think would work for you as far as the partner, you have to do in yourself as well. What riffs of me would I feel comfortable playing? Right? I'm sure you played lots of riffs in life, and some of them are just whatever, and some of them are like, I like playing that riff. That's very inspiring, motivating, and so on. And the other riffs, yeah, I can do that. I did that back in school one day or something for like a summer or for 10 years or whatever, but I don't necessarily want to be doing that role again, although I could if I needed to. Okay, so there's a spectrum there. So what riffs would make you feel like, right there, how comfortable are you being in more uncomfortable riffs? So you need to know that range you have for your marriage here. Then also, what would be too much, or what would be the ideal? So you want to have those factors in mind and think then again with those ranges that you're giving, those variables, what does that open up in the market? What does that increase the random chances? What does it increase the likelihood that you're going to get a mate that will be the right riff? Okay. So then I have to then touch on the fact that there is in fact no plan. So that's something to think about. Why there isn't necessarily one, and maybe you have one, you just haven't revealed it, that's fine. But then think upon what that would be and what that is going to do to you as the chosen one of your peak pathway. Because you owe obligation to your peak pathway first. But obviously there's the greater good, and family is one of fast connections into the greater good of the rest of the tribe of humanity. But even besides that, you are often helping your own peak pathway by having a mate of marriage, by having children, and so on. So that's a personal decision. But you need to ask what plan would then increase the likelihood of getting the marriage thing, and how do I feel about them? So that's very, very important. So just doing them in general, the steps of them, and then what kind of person would the person who's I'm increasing the chance of them be likely to want to be married, what am I being to attract that, to make that possible, and do I like being that? So obviously with your knee, I'm sure there's tons of possibilities you're thinking of, so I would just ponder on that and then let your Nyy'xai weigh it. All right. If I have children, I'm worried that I will grow to resent them. Okay, well, first on the 40s, when I'm 40, I've wasted my reproductive years. You don't actually have to get married. So that brings into something. So for you, and this is fine, whatever it is, there's a lot of questions to ask here. Are you okay with your being a single mother? Or is the marriage, without marriage, you're not doing the children? That's fine. I mean, so is it marriage and children, or I could be single and have a child, or I don't want the child, or so on and so forth. That's something I think you'll want to dial in a bit more on to make those variables a bit clearer. Come to the surface, take them into hand, weigh them, and just recognize this is a thing. This is a very relevant element to this math I'm doing, the spirit math of what I want to do with my life. That's on the board. Keeping the board, and get it, hold it, it's a thing, and then make sure Nyi then is now juggling that. That is in the rotation and remains in your rotation. Okay. If I have children, I'm worried that I will grow to resent them for the time and attention they demand from me, and for the fact that I won't be as free anymore because of them. This is a big deal because once I have kids, I'm stuck with them for at least 18 years. That is true. I can't just hit an undo button if I realize I don't like being a mom. True. Okay. Something that I found is helpful in this regard, because I've had this kind of thing come up before. And it's never an easy thing to answer because it's personal, and there's things on both sides of the which way you go. But you can try working more with kids. And, volunteering, you can do all kinds of things for charity. I think it would be very rewarding just in general. And then you're going to feel both and feel which one's more. I want one of these for my own. Like, as you start to get into one of the kids, whatever, you're like, I want more of this kind of conversation. I want more of this mentor, mentee, parent, child, just, a very raw, childlike, open love. I want that. I want more of it. To the point where it's like, can I just take your kid from you? You know what I mean? Like, you're like, I want the more of that in my life. So there's that feeling of being tugged, but you'll also be tugged by, this is interfering with my life. I'm not able to do other things I would like to be doing because I'm dedicating such and such hours to this charity work, to give some bonding, loving energy to children who need it. So that's a worthy cause, but still, I feel it's encroaching on other things I also want to be doing. My peak pathways calling to do them. Those would be tugs, strong tugs. But that situation, you'll feel both tugs simultaneously, and you can, when you're feeling them simultaneously, reliably, of that ritual, continuously, for however long you do it, do that kind of stuff, you can start to feel where they're coming from and which one pulls more. So, if your Nyy'xai wants something, you're going to have to make a fine weighing that can put you in a situation where you can feel both elements of that weighing together and make a nuanced call. All right. The worst thing is that no matter what I do, I feel like I'm always going to be unhappy because I'll be thinking about the possibilities that I could have pursued had I chosen another path. Okay. If I keep traveling for a long time and don't have a family, I will wonder what my life would or could have been like if I had a family. If I have a family, I will always feel struck or trapped in one place and resent everybody, my kids, husband, etc., for the fact that I can't travel as much as I would have liked. Okay, I can help you out here as a worldview map, as a Nyy'xai mojo. You are talking a truth here, but some words need to be changed to be more accurate, and thus in the accuracy will be a release of the tension, because there's a lot of strong energies going in different directions here, and only with the proper, spiritual chiropractic can that happen. If it gets out of line, then those things start to crunch into each other, and it's a problem. Okay, so the word unhappy. No, you're not going to always be unhappy. You are regretful. No. It's like degrees based on what could have been, right? You have unhappy, you have resentful, you have regretful, but the one I think you can get to is bittersweet. And perhaps even into true contentment. But we'll start with bittersweet so it has some relevance to this feeling of unhappiness. So bitter, right? Bitter, sweet, you can see does connect in some way on a spectrum to being unhappy. The reason why I say that is because if you do everything right, whatever that means, you're going to be bittersweet. That's life. Life is bittersweet. So understanding for like your Nyy'xai to weigh the situation, that actually is contentment. Once you actually realize that, and you can make your bittersweet as awesome as it can be, there will be contentment. Contentment will have bittersweetness to it. True contentment. It wouldn't be existence otherwise. So what you're asking about is purpose, and feeling that the purpose of your life, the meaning of your life, what you gained during your life, it worked out to be strong. Okay, that's going to require sacrifice. You are going to have to give up possibilities you could have had in life in order to guarantee the ones that you want more. That's one thing. You have to talk to your Vi in this. Vi does the same way. That's where standards of excellence come from, because you slough off the other ways you could have done it. You could have detailed that car, building, history book, blah, 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 in any number of ways. But you went with that way. If you go that way, you're going with a certain kind of font. There's so many other cool fonts you could have used. Once you decide, I want this to have purpose, I want this to have meaning, it will begin to have a singular focus. That's its strength, but it needs to feed to get that strength. It feeds by saying, I'm not going to do those things, I'm going to do this. And you don't have to think of it that way, although that is the reasoning behind it. You can simply just pursue that which I want more. But what you're going to feel, and as you're getting older, you're going to feel that from your modulation powers, your Z and your Vi, of like, oh, as your Nyy'xai does what it likes to do without thinking, it starts noting, you could have done this, you could have done that, I could have graduated 24, I could have had this, I could have done, and you start noting that. Don't freak out. That's just the maturing of, yes, that's true, and as you get older and more mature, you're more aware of that, and you want to take more ownership of that, and that's a good thing. That's what that is, more ownership of that fact of life. And so realizing that, this might help. In a story, there's lots of different scenes, right? And each scene has maybe a delight to it that may appeal to your Nyi. Now, something that's going to appeal to Nyi and Vi is this. At the end, when they show usually something like a montage of the life after this, or they jump in time to much later in their life and you kind of just see them living out what their life is now, or they do some sort of title screen or even tombstone that basically goes, this person did such and such, and it changed the country when they died, so many people went to their funeral, and the country was better, and blah, blah. It can be a number of things. It can be sci-fi, real life. It doesn't matter. Okay, that appeals strong to Nyi and Vi and gives meaning to all the earlier scenes. In fact, all the earlier scenes, each power comes at it differently in the story of life. The Nyi and Vi come from, the point of this is so that end, although it seems